Namo
Namo
tassa
tassa
bhagavato
bhagavato
arahato
arahato
samma
sama
sambuddhassa.
sambuddhassa.
Namo
Namo
tassa
tassa
bhagavato
bhagavato
arahato
arahato
samma
sama
sambuddhassa.
sambuddhassa.
Namo
Namo
tassa
tassa
bhagavato
bhagavato
arahato
arahato
samma
sama
sambuddhassa.
sambuddhassa.
Okay, so welcome back to Nikāya study class. And today's second part of the Ambata Sutta, which is the third sutta of Nikāya. So we have studied this sutta as a lesson 7. There, the introduction about the conversation between the Ambata and the Buddha. Then the brief introduction about the history of Sakya clan, which is belong to the Buddha himself, and the history of the Ambata's lineage, which is called Kanayana lineage. And it is concluded by the passages which express the Katiya is the best. So Katiya refers to the kin, the kinship is the best among those who value the clan. Then Buddha continued about the knowledge and conduct. Knowledge and conduct is the best of gods and men. Then the Ambata asks about the knowledge and conduct. What is the conduct, which is called charana, which is called in Pāļi, the charana. And what is knowledge? Vijja. So vijja and charana. Because the Buddha is plain that the knowledge and conduct is the best. So he was interested in what it means, knowledge and conduct. And according to commentary explanation, this interest come through his thought. The Buddha said that knowledge and conduct is the best. And he was thinking that I also have the knowledge and conduct. The Ambatas were thinking in this way. The conduct he refers to is 5 precepts, according to commentary explanation. Yeah, Ambata has confidence. I have the conduct, charana, because I'm keeping 5 precepts. Then I also have the knowledge on the Vedas, so their literature. By this, he has confidence. I also have the vijja and charana. By this, I can be the best. So depending on this confidence, he asks the question, what is conduct and what is the knowledge? But the Buddhas say here, okay, so about the unexamined knowledge here, unexamined knowledge, the attainment of unexamined knowledge and conduct is far from those who live in the household life in this way. Here, those who are engaging the affair of marriage, so taking or giving, and this kind of person always saying that you are worthy of me and you are not worthy of me. But for those who has the attainment of knowledge and conduct, should stay away from such kind of engagement in the marriage, and also saying you are worthy of me or you are not worthy of me. That is why only those who abandon and such kind of engagement in marriage and keeping the price to compare one another can attain the excellent knowledge and conducts. So here, the Buddha used the word unexcellent, which is referring to the meaning of matchless. Matchless. So in Pāļi, it is mentioned by the word anuttara. Anuttara. So it is not common knowledge and common conduct. It is unexcellent, so matchless knowledge and conducts. So the Buddha will reveal what are the unexcellent knowledge and conduct later. So in this step, Buddha pointed out this is not related to those who are engaging in marriage. Then again, the Ambata asking, what does exactly mean the conduct and knowledge? So the Buddha is playing from the beginning. With this passage are already mentioned in the second sutta, the Samanyaphala Sutta. There, the Buddha already explained the gradually about the fruits of the ascetic life, Samanyaphala Sutta. So, starting from the Tathagata, same as the Buddha, arise in the world. So, what kind of Buddha? I mean, Arahat, Sambuddha, etc. With well-known by briefly explained by the 9 virtues, Arahant, Sama, Sambuddha, etc. So there, the third virtue is Vijjacharana Sampanna. This is related to the explanation of this sutta. So here also in the Ambata Sutta, Buddha mentioned Vijja and Charana. And also Buddha is already well known as the Arahant, Sama, Sambuddha, Vijjacharana Sampanna. So to explain about their conduct and knowledge, Buddha started from the appearance of the Sambuddha, who is endowed with the wisdom and conduct here. Wisdom and knowledge is same. Also, the Buddha identifying what kind of Buddha appear in this world. So, wayfarer, knower of the world, Ogavidu, and incomparable trainer, and the teacher, and enlightened one, and the blessed one. These are 9 virtues of the Buddha. And appear in this world. Afterward, he himself, the Buddha himself, realized by his own super knowledge about the true nature, true Dhamma, Four Noble Truth. And he proclaimed, he explained and this noble truth to the living beings in Deva, Maras, and Brahma. Then he preached the Dhamma. The Buddha preached Dhamma. So what kind of Dhamma is here? So it is completely good in all aspects of beginning, middle, or the ends. Then, this is recorded Sorry, this is recorded as the word in literature. So the disciple will learn it and teach this Dhamma back to their ancestor, their generation to generation. So the Dhamma display here, we have to pay attention, to emphasize what kind of Dhamma. And this word preached by the Buddha. Then this Dhamma preached by the Buddha displays the fully perfected and purified holy life. This is a very important point when we talk about the Dhamma. So the purpose of Dhamma is to display the fully perfected holy life and purified holy life. It's not only for the welfare in worldly life. This refers to the holy life, how to live in the noble life. Then, and the others teaching, the further teachings are related to those repeating of the second sutta, the practice of morality, and they are restraining all 6 sandstorms, and the contentment, suppressing the mental hindrances. After that, the attainment of jhana. So for the morality, Buddha just explained this is the moral precept. Then the attainment of jhana is identified by the word conduct, charana, here in this sutta. So the attainment of jhana referring to the 8 kinds of attainment. For those who already learned the Abhidhamma may know that the 8 kinds of attainment, the 5 material sphere jhana and 4 immaterial sphere jhana, those are called the conduct in this sutta, charana. Then studying from the vipassana jnana, in the second sutta, it is explained 8 kinds of knowledges. These are reference to the knowledge in this sutta. So vicca and charana, as the Buddha mentioned to Ambata, what are the vicca and what are the charana? Okay, so then after explanation of the attainment of vicca and charana, Buddha trying to point out the starting position of the youth Brahmin, Ambata, and his teacher Pakrasati. So Buddha continued to explain 4 parts of failures in the practice of vicca. Because the Ambata, before Buddha explained what is exactly mean vicca and charana, he was thinking of we are also completed by the vicca charana. And we also have the vicca charana. So Buddha trying to reveal the true situation. And so these 4 and 8 attainment of charana and 8 kinds of knowledges, which are far from the attainment of Ambata and his teacher. Then, what are the 4 paths of failures? And so 4 paths of failures are those who cannot pursue, cannot practice for the attainment of an excellence, knowledge, and conduct. They practice the lower position, and because they cannot manage to gain the vicca and charana, then they take the carrion pole and plunges, then go into the forest, thinking, for the practice, I will live on the windfall. So it's a kind of renunciation. Although they cannot pursue to the attainment of knowledge and conduct, they still want to practice. So they went into the forest and they live in the wine forest and just pick up the fruits. Those are already ripened and fall down on the ground. Then they collect and eat. After that, they try to practice the ascetic practice. Or this can be practiced by the Brahmin when they renounce the Brahmin household life, Brahmin life. Then this kind of person, those going into the forest and live in the wine forest, is considered as the first failure of the Vijayacharana, because they cannot reach to the attainment of Vijayacharana, although they live in the forest and live on the wine forest. That's why this kind of practice is considered as the first failure. Then, when those person, those people, ascetics and Brahmin, cannot reach to the first failures, then they take the spade and basket and they live on tubers and roots, and they root out and they dig out by themselves, or they dig off the roots or the fruits. They pick up by themselves and then they eat and they meditate on that. If another group of ascetics or Brahmin, they cannot reach to the former paths, and they make a fire path and they serve the fires at the edge of the village or small town and nearby the people's living, and they set it down and to serve the fire. This is also a kind of practice. And this is the third failures. And by this practice, they cannot reach to the attainment of knowledge and conduct. And finally, when the groups of ascetics and Brahmin, they cannot reach to the former practice, and they erase the house with the 4 doors at the crossroads. And they set it down there, and to be the servants, or to give their service to the ascetics and Brahmin. Those are practicing as the former 3 paths, or those are practicing for the attainment of Vijja and Jnana. So they consider as themselves as the servant, and I will serve whenever the ascetics or Brahmin arrive from any direction to our place, and we will serve. In this way, they're trying to keep practicing, but these 4 ways of practice are considered as the failure of the attainment of knowledge and conduct, because these ascetics and Brahmin cannot reach to the attainment of knowledge and conduct by these ascetic practice. Although they are considered as the 4 paths of failure, still they are continuing practicing. It should be appreciated. So Buddha asked whether the Ambata and his teacher live according to the attainment of the unexamined knowledge and conduct, and the answer is no. He admits the Ambata himself. Ambata and his teacher, none of them are practicing for the attainment of knowledge and conduct in this case. Afterward, Buddha continued asking whether they are following any of these ascetic practices. These are considered as the failures of the paths to the attainment of Vijayacharana. Then, even for the failure, he answered no, because they are not practicing any of these ascetic practices. living in the Brahmin life at the time of the Buddha. They are not practicing any of these ascetic practices. Then he responds saying, no, no, Reverend Gautama. Then, so finally, the Buddha pointed out, even though you and your teachers, even your community are not practicing for at least the 4 parts of failure for the attainment of Vijayacharana, you still considering you and your teacher, because the Ambata came to the Buddha and he trying to degrade the Buddha's position, and he was so proud being the Brahmin or being the student of the Brahmin Pakrasati. That's why Buddha said, even though you are not practicing any of 4 parts of 4 failures, so you just say that the shaving little ascetics to the Buddha at the beginning. He looked down to the Buddha and he treated the Buddha with the unrespectful manner. After that, he insulted with the sounding walls, the hong roots, the reference. Even he refers to the Sajja clan to insult the Buddha. So, although you are not practicing any of even the 4 parts of the failures, and you are looking down on for the samana, the ascetics, the shaving little ascetic like this. And so Buddha point out, if you are so proud, you are so proud of the being the Brahmin as a learned in the 3 Veda, and belittling others' ascetics practice, and this is your fault. We can see, and you can consider this is your teacher's fault, and how your teacher is doing this in improper way. And after pointing out this position, and Buddha continued about the Brahmin Pakrasati. Then here the Buddha point out the kin vicinity Kosala. Although he gave the opportunity to rule the Ukata town to the Pakrasati Brahmin, but he does not allow a Pakrasati Brahmin to have the conversation face to face. This regarding this situation, the commentary explained the Pakrasati knows the Sati mantra to control the other's mind. If he claim the name of item or the name of property, then when the king listen that name and he like to give it, it means if the Brahmin Pakrasati forcefully take something which is not given by the power of mantra. Being afraid of that, the kin vicinity Kosala, it does not allow the Brahmin Pakrasati to have an audience face to face. When he need to consult with the Brahmin Pakrasati, he consult through the curtain, the covered by the curtain, and he is not facing to the Pakrasati Brahmin. Then also Buddha pointed out this situation, but the commentary explained that this kind of situation is known by the kin and the group of Brahmin itself. So this is this information is not known to the public, but the Buddha knows. So to reveal his knowledge, his super knowledge, Buddha give this information. And then the Buddha continue asking about to explain the position of the Brahmin in that during this time, during this day, including the Pakrasati and Ambata. So giving the example of the king vicinity. So the king, when he give the orders or the statement, sitting in the any place and proper place, and he give the orders or the statement. Then if someone, when the vicinity Kosala left from that place, and the man who is the workman or the workman's servants, no any other man, which is not king himself, and other person take his place, and he stand exactly the place where the king vicinity was standing and giving his statement. And standing there, if he say the king vicinity say in this way or that's not that way, and the Buddha asks whether he can be the person, the workman or the workman's servant, that any other person can be the same as the king vicinity, for he was standing the same place of the king. Then he say, it is impossible, the Ambata say, it is impossible for standing the king's place. It cannot be the king, exactly the same as king. It means the king has the kingship, and the other cannot have this kind of the equal position of the vicinity Kosala. In the same way, the Buddha pointed out the ancestor, the first sages of the Brahmin. So the later period of time, the Brahmins are repeating this mantra of the first sages of Brahmin. So at the beginning, these are the eight Brahmin. Eight ascetics are mentioned. Eight sages are mentioned as the ancestor of the Brahmin community. The Brahmins are repeating of these eight sages of chanting they are called the Vedas. So the Vedas are composed by these sages, and in the name they are called the Attaka Vamaka, Vamadeva, etc. So they compose the Veda and they teach to their generation to generation of the Brahmin and community. Then Buddha pointed out how these first sages of Brahmin live in the life. And here, the Buddhas compare the way of living, the first sage of Brahmin and the way of living in that day, including the Bhakrasati. And so this person, the Brahmin teacher, cannot reach to these first sages of Brahmin. Then Buddha identified by the question. So nowadays, including the Pakrasati Brahmin, they enjoy themselves as the world bathing and using perfume and decorating their hair, etc. So it's just like the house living in the household life. Although their teacher and the ancestors are living and far from this kind of lifestyle, and the Brahmin communities are living in different way. That's why Buddha say, did these first sages of Brahmins enjoy themselves in this way as you and your teacher are doing now? Then the Ambata admit, no, Reverend Gautama. It means and they are not following to these first sages of Brahmins. Then Buddha continue. So did they eat it? Fine rice, special meal in this case, as you and your teacher are doing now? Then he said no. Then did they amuse themselves with the woman, enjoying with the marriage life? And also he said no. And did they use the chariot? Also no. Then also the first stage of Brahmins are not having goddess. That's why by this question and answer, the Buddha pointed out, although the Brahmin community during that time are claiming themselves as the follower of these sages of Brahmin, and they are living in different way of lifestyle. And Buddha make Ambata to admit himself. Then Buddha continue asking this. So after that, the Ambata already know their situation and also the Buddha's situation. So according to the hierarchy of the clan or the caste system, he cannot match with the Buddha. And according to the attainment of Vijayajana, he and his teacher Pakrasati cannot reach to the Buddha's level. Then his purpose of coming to the Buddha is to check or to investigate the Buddha is the 32 great marks, whether the Buddha can be identified. The Buddha can be identified by these 32 great marks of the noble man. So a Buddha in the sitting posture, he cannot find out the 32 great men, 32 marks of the great men on the Buddha's body. So the Buddha walks to show Ambata 32 great marks. Then Ambata follows after that, and he investigates whether the Buddha, the Buddha's body has the 32 great men, 32 marks of the great man. Then by following and by walking after the Buddha, and he could check the 30 marks of the great man. So if you are interested in what are the 32 marks of the great man, we will learn in the Lakkhana Sutta. So there Buddha mentioned what are the marks of the great man and why these appear on this great man's body. Okay, so here in this sutta, by following in the Buddha, and he could check the 30. It's at 2 marks. So 2 marks are the sheath genitals. And so here the great men, those who can be Chakravarti, King Chakravarti, or universal monarch, or the Buddha, has the genitals covered by the capes, covered by something sheath. And another one is this the tongue. The tongue is subtle, wide, and long. So because these are covered, these two marks are covered, the Ambata could not check by following. That's why the Buddha used his extraordinary psychic power to rebuild the Ambatas, these 2 marks of the great men. Then for this one, for genital, Buddha just show the image, although it is covered by the robes of the Buddha, and the Ambata can see the form of these genitals. It's not really revealing, open. And for the tongue, the Buddha showed the region of to lick the ears and nursery. I mean, to show the long and gentle, subtle. And also to show the large and cover the whole cycle of his full heart. So this Buddha's tongue is long enough to touch. It's not always happening that only when Buddha want to show up, the great sign it come out. Then Ambata could identify the ascetic Gautama has complete 32 marks of the great man, and none of them is missing. Then his work is already done. So he went back to his teacher afterward. Then, so at that time, the Brahmin Pakrasati was waiting for him. Then when he has learned about the report of the Ambata, what is the conversation between the Buddha and Ambata? And he got angry because Ambata insulted to the Buddha. As a result, the Buddha revealed the true situation. The Pakrasati really does not like to let the other people know. So this is the fault of the Ambata, he thought. Then he getting angry and he say, you are a fine little scholar. This is not really appreciated. And he displeased to the Ambata, and afterward, you are too so clever to go to the downfall and evil part, because he could not satisfy with the Ambata's conversation to the Buddha. As a result, he was his information are revealed to public. That's why he said, you are too clever to go to the evil part and ruin and in the hell. After that, he could not control himself and so angry, and he kicked over the Ambata. Then he really liked to see the Buddha immediately after this happened. Then he tried to set out to see the Buddha. Then the other Brahmins say it is too late, even to have the light conversation. It is too late. So let's go to see in the Buddha tomorrow. Then he tolerated. After that, he in the next morning, early morning, he provides some light foods, and he went to the Buddha. Then he asked about the conversation yesterday, what kind of conversation the Buddha and Ambata have. Then he apologized instead of his disciple. The Ambata is a young fool, so may the Reverend Gautama pardon him. Then the Buddha also accept his apologies. Then the Brahmin Ambata be happy. Then Bhakrasati still like to check by himself the 32 great men, the 32 marks of the great man on the Buddha's body. And Buddha, in the same way, he revealed the other two. And the 30 marks can be checked by the walking. So after checking 32 marks of the great man on the Buddha's body, the Bhakrasati invite the Buddha and Sangha for his arm donation. Normally, this kind, and we can find throughout the Pāḷi canon here, the Nikāya study, the invitation. So accept meal for tomorrow. Normally, we see that for tomorrow invitation. But in this case, Bhakrasati cannot tolerate for tomorrow, and he like to offer today. That's why accept my offerings today together with his order. And the Buddha accept by silence. Then the Bhakrasati serve the monks, the Buddha and monks in his house. After that, he sit on the lower position, and Buddha give the teaching here. This is regular teaching we have to keep in mind. And when the Buddha preach, also, we have to understand how we should prepare our mind in order to absorb of the teaching of Four Noble Truths. This is the initial stage of the mind. The Buddha gave the graduated discourse, or we can say the gradual discourse, Anupabhikata. And throughout the Pāḷi canonical text, we can see. And at first, Buddha talked about the generosity. So by the manner of generosity here, even the Bhakrasati Brahmin himself, he has done the donation, alms donation to the Buddha and Sangha. So if we really perform the act of donation in right position of mind with the loving kindness, that action of generosity make our mind gentle and malleable. So generosity is very good point to start. So Buddha talk about the generosity, how to make donation, what kind of mind like this, what kind of mind should be kept in the manner of generosity, what are the benefits like this. Then after that, Buddha continued talking about the moral precept. So by the good action of generosity and moral precept, one can attain the life in the heavenly realm. So after giving the talk on the generosity and moral precept, Buddha continued talking about the life in the heavenly realms. So when the people the audience listening, the generosity, moral precepts, good as a good action, and the life in the heaven, and as a result, they can have the sense to understand cause and effect relationship, and also keep the mind. If we are keep continuing this kind of good practice, and we were reborn, and they get the delight in the listening of Dhamma, the Anubodhikatha, the graduated discourse. Then Buddha start to talk about the sensual pleasure, the danger, degradation, and corruption, and how dangerous if we are absorbed in the sensual pleasure with the sensual desire. If we forget to move forward from the range of the sensual pleasure, and if we attach in the sensual pleasure with sense desire, how dangerous, how it can define our mind and practice. The Buddha point out, although you can be happy in the heavenly life and life in the heavenly realms, this still is a dangerous situation. And also this is defined by the attachment. Buddha continue his Dhamma talk in this way. Then the audience, when they are listening this kind of teaching, they get the sense of urgency, samvega. Although we can be happy there, and we are subject to be suffer afterward. So then the Buddha is playing the profit of renunciation at that moment, because that time they start to think about how to get out from this kind of repetition of suffering with the sensual desire on sensual pleasure. So when the Buddha is playing the profit of renunciation, they can follow for the purpose of renunciation. But this is the teaching process of the Buddha. Buddha normally give this kind of gradual teaching to the audience. Then after listening this kind of graduated discourse, the mind becomes subtle and become malleable or ready to continue the advanced teaching, and also free from hindrances. As long as the mind attached to the sensual pleasure, and it is not free from the mental hindrance. So after listening the profit of renunciation, including Pakrasati, the audience mind become free from the mental hindrances and become ready to understand the profound teaching. So this is an important point. While we are studying the Nikāya study, we should prepare our mind to be free from mental hindrances so that we can absorb the profound teaching. Otherwise, if our mind is covered and hindered by the mental hindrances, although we listen the Dhamma, although we read the teaching, and we cannot absorb the advanced teaching. So after removing or suppressing the mental hindrances, that the mind is filled with the joy and calms. In this situation, the Buddha preached the sermon on Dhamma. Here, the translation is brief, but actually in Pāļi is Samukkansika Dhammadesana. This is called the teaching to be revealed by the Buddha himself. So this in brief, we say the Four Noble Truths: the Noble Truth of suffering, the Noble Truth of origin of suffering, the Noble Truth of cessation of suffering, and the way leading to the suffering. This is called the Samukastika Desana. The teaching should be revealed by the Buddha himself. So, but when the Buddha preached the Four Noble Truths to the Brahmin Pakrasadi, who has the mind free from the mental hindrances, so he could attain the pure and spotless Dhamma eye. I mean, he attained the enlightenment. So the example is given that just as the clean clothes already washed to be clean, then when it is dying, the clean cloth can receive the dye perfectly to have the exact color of the dye. In the same way, when the Buddha preached the profound teaching of Four Noble Truths to those who have the mind is ready to accept and pure mind and free from the mental hindrance, then can attain the pure and spotless Dhamma eye. So if we like to attain the enlightenment, we should be ready. We should keep our mind ready in any time. The enlightenment can be any time if we can keep our mind free from mental hindrances. So then, in this sutta, the Pakrasadi has attained the stage of enlightenment, the former stage. The first or up to the third is included, the Dhamma eye, the expression of the attainment of Dhamma eye, referring to the three stages of attainment, Sotapatti Magga or Sakadagami Magga and Anagami Magga, and realizing that whatever things have an origin must come to cessation. This is how the noble person realized that on the conditional realities when they attain the Dhamma eye. Then after the attainment of Dhamma eye, the mental state of Pakrasadi is expressed that he has sinned and he has attained and experienced the Dhamma eye experience, that the true Dhamma by his own. And then he has overcome the doubt and transcended anxiety. Then having perfect confidence in the teacher's doctrine in the Buddha Sasana, not relying on the other, he experienced by himself. Then he say the excellence, and he appreciate the Buddha's teaching. And given the example, I think this example is already speak by the King Ajatasattu after listening in the discourse on the fruits of the ascetic life, the second sutta. And just like the pointing the way for those who got lost, and bringing an oil lamp in the dark place so that to see the things where they are. Then in the same way, the Pakrasadi rejoiced and expressed his understanding because of the Buddha's teaching, and he realized that the Buddha revealed the Dhamma in various ways, and I realized after that, and he took refuges. So I go not only for himself, son, wife, minister, and counselor, so all the family members take refuge. So he requests the Buddha to accept him as a lay follower. So here, this kind of taking is taking refuge is as long as life shall last. It means as long as he is living, he will keep the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha as refuge. Then Okrasadi make another invitation. So this kind of invitation for the Buddhist follower, they can make to their teacher or respected teacher. So here, like the Buddha visit to other family in this Okata town, other follower families to the Okata town, the Buddha pay visit to our family as well. He requests, because he liked to invite the Buddha to his home with the expectation for the welfare and happiness of his family member, his member of his house. When the Buddha or the Sangha come to the house, they will give their reverence to the Buddha and Sangha and pay respect, and then they will raise before him, and then they will offer the seed and water with the glad heart. Even if they cannot make the Father offering, this kind of manner is enough to produce the future welfare and happiness in their life. So by this expectation, he make this kind of Father invitation to the Buddha and Sangha. So in this sutta, we can learn what about the Vijja and Charana, as well as the failures. Even the failures still have the appreciation to the practice of Vijja Charana. And this is regarding the practice. After that, we can learn how to apologize. So like the Okrasadi, he has done on behalf of Ambata to the Buddha. Then also how to invite the Buddha and Sangha members in the proper way. Okay, so I'm going to stop here my explanation, and we are going to continue to the Q&A session. Thank you for your participation, and sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sayadaw, thank you very much for your teaching. During each session, Sayadaw, in terms of the announcements, during each session, Sayadaw will explain the outline of every sutta one by one. There's homework assignment for this Nikāya study series. For our next homework assignment, Sayadaw would like us to continue in reading the translated fourth sutta of Nikāya in your preferred language to prepare ourselves before the next study session in 2 weeks. Please do also take notes during your readings, and any question, please submit to our email address at americadhammasociety@gmail.com. And those questions will be answered accordingly.